What is up, YouTube? Baubles and Ball Cards back with another video. You may have already seen the post. You may have seen a video that I'm going to share some pieces from. But if you haven't, you know that even though we are no longer doing SGC bulk submissions, this channel was birthed and grew basically on SGC news. And I don't know that I've ever done larger SGC news for as far as a company news announcement than I will today. It's honestly, it's not. It's a shock personally, but it's also not a surprise, if that makes any sense. And what I'm talking about is, it shows here 35 minutes ago. Peter Steinberg, the head, the guy that ran SGC. Many of us knew him as SGC Pete. We always seen his bubbly posts and videos when he had some exciting announcements, and we would see the disappointment if turnaround times got backed up or if he had to change pricing or whatever along the years. He has made a resignation post. I'm going to go over it. I'm going to skim through and give the synopsis here. But this is on Instagram, and I think it's on Facebook as well if you want to read it in full. But it says, basically, I've spent the last 7 years leading SGC and serving in the capacity of being the public face of the company. Whether exciting news or disappointing SGC updates, you all heard it directly from me, and I've always done everything in my power to be as truthful and transparent. Effective immediately, I've made the difficult decision to resign from my position at SGC. As you can imagine, this was not made lightly, as my time at SGC has been the most rewarding chapter of my life. However, I feel that now is the right time, and I have confidence in our outstanding team moving forward. Goes on to say, there's no possible way to adequately thank all of you for what you've done for both SGC over the years and him. Whether you chose us for speed, customer service, grading quality, or you like the look of the tux, all of you have made a massive impact, and I am forever grateful. I loved this hobby for 20 years before it became cool, and while I'm not yet sure what the next chapter holds for me, I know my passion for cards and collecting will be my driving force. As I step aside, I want to thank my team for accomplishing so much more than we ever thought possible, as well as Nat Turner and Collectors for all of their support over the last year and a half. I wish them nothing but the best, and I will be rooting on their success. Maybe stepping down from SGC, but I'll always be his biggest fan, and my SGC Pete identity will stay with me forever. I will never forget what it was like back in the early days when me and only a few others had a dream of building something that really made a difference. It has been an absolute honor serving all of you and working alongside the amazing people at SGC. Now, the reason I say it kind of is shocking is SGC, the first time I ever called them, I called down there I'd gotten a name from Alico 3, and I called to speak to a representative named Andy. And Andy was my first bulk submission rep. He now actually works with JSA, but Andy was not in the office when I called. However, Peter, even though he was the CEO of the company, he willingly got on the phone and he talked to me. And he loved talking about the hobby. I mean, he was on the phone with me, I believe it was between an hour and a half. Told me, what he wanted to do with the company. And I mean, this was pre-COVID. This was, I believe it was like the end of January, mid to end of January of 2020. So this was a couple months before COVID. And he was telling me this vision, and he was telling me, back then, hey, if you're sending in ultramodern, don't worry about the declared value, all of this. And he really sold me on using SGC. And as you know, we became bulk submitters, and for 5+ years, has submitted many thousands of cards. I have submitted personally thousands of cards. And so to know that he's resigning, it's kind of a shock. But at the same time, it's not, because when collectors purchased them, it was kind of not, will the company change? It was more of, when will the company change? And I think we're seeing things move in a rapid speed at the moment. They did operate as SGC uniquely, or independently, I guess, for a good portion of the time after collectors purchased them, but we're now seeing the changes. The first move was cut the bulk submissions, and I said then that was kind of like the initial chink out of the armor. I felt that doing that and starting to control those kind of positions was going to make changes within the company. I may have misinterpreted. I'm going to jump over and share some video clips. I'm going to let it from a video Neo just posted up a little while ago, with an interview with Ryan Hoge, who is in control. He runs like all of the different grading divisions under the Collector's Universe. But there's some interesting details in here, and I'm going to play some, discuss it. But I may have misunderstood, but let's go over here to it real quick. I'm hoping you guys can hear it okay. I have my sound all up. Hopefully the mic picks it up well, but let's see.
Yes. Yeah, no, Peter is great. So, but yeah, Peter's moving on. This is something we've been talking about for many months. It's not like a surprise thing. As we kind of started talking about it in the February-March timeframe about, hey, what's next for SGC. I should also caveat too. People know me as the president of PSA, but I also lead all of our grading businesses at Collectors. So that includes our coin business, PCGS. It includes SGC. It includes WADA, our video game business, as well as everything under PSA with comics, magazines, cards, autographs. So I kind of look after the whole portfolio. And Peter was leading, the SGC business unit. And so we started talking a few months ago about kind of the future and where do we want to go with things. I think Peter was really starting to run into some challenges scaling and growing the business without a significant, level of technology and kind of capital investment, along the lines of what we did with.
All right. I want to stop it right there because he goes on and he says that they've been talking about some changes, since February, March timeframe. And then he goes on to say that Peter was running into challenges with technology and scaling the company. That I found really interesting because when I was first having discussions with them after Collectors purchased SGC, the one thing that SGC was excited about was the accessibility of technology that PSA had to help them grow and get better as a company. And that was like the assurance policy of, well, we're going to run independently, but this benefits the company so much because PSA has all of this technology and everything. We can help them, with things that they need help with, but they can help us on the technology side of things. And now you're hearing, well, not so fast. He's struggling with the technology side. And I'm going to play it a bit further because it kind of goes into detailing of, well, we spent a lot of money on the PSA technology side of things. We didn't feel it was best to invest all of that into SGC. And it was kind of like, it has kind of this feel of, why spend money twice? Why do we need two grading companies kind of thing? So I'm going to play it a little bit further, and that way y'all can hear it from the mouth of the man himself. But, I just wanted to kind of go over that. That was the first bit of it.
PSA over the last 4 years, Nat and I and our executive team and our investors have put tens of millions of dollars into scaling PSA. When we went private, I think we were grading 15 to 18,000 cards a day. Now we're grading 80,000 cards a day. So that's a pretty massive increase in like tech, people, facilities, and both Peter.
So you're hearing say that PSA invested tens of millions into the tech and scaling and everything, and they jumped from 15 to 18,000 cards a day to 80,000 cards a day. Now you can go on Generate and look. 80,000 cards a day. That's like 2 days and they're outgrading everybody except for CGC. They can go in, work Monday, Tuesday, and boom, they're already ahead of Beckett. They're ahead of Beckett on Monday. They're ahead of SGC on Tuesday. And then, I guess by the end of the week, what did CGC do? I think they were at hold on. I think they were at like 400,000. Yeah, 428,000 for June. So, by the following Monday, they've already surpassed CGC. That is massive, right? So a company knowing that they have such a high advantage, and again, he said they spent tens of millions to scale to be able to get there. And you would think that if they already had like some of the details, that maybe it wouldn't have cost as much to go ahead and use some of that tech and all of that with SGC. But they might, on the other end of it, again, it's like, why do you need two companies doing the same thing, right? Why spend even $1 million over here if you're just, yeah, you could say, well, you have more, you get more of the demand, you have more of the piece of the pie by having both of them. But at the same time, you got to invest a lot. And how long would it take them to get a return on that investment? That's probably the question that comes out. So I'm going to play a little bit more here. There's some important things I want y'all to listen to, especially the SGC folks, because this is significant.
Peter and I agreed it did not make sense for us to duplicate that investment to have another mega scale card grading brand. SGC is awesome, but SGC is awesome at what they do, and including vintage, including affordable, fast grading. And we want to keep that, kind of at the ethos and the core of what SGC is going forward. But what we decided, we want to right size it, shrink it a little bit, have it go back to kind of pre-insanity of the COVID spike levels, maybe back to the 2017, 2018, 2019 levels of SGC, and position it more as a kind of a boutique grading brand that's still there to serve customers for both 17, 2018, 2019 levels of SGC, and position it more as a kind of a boutique grading brand that's still there to serve customers.
So yes, you didn't, the video didn't skip. I rewound that so everybody could hear it. The man says that they want SGC to shrink back to 2017, 18, 19 levels, and he used the term become more of a boutique brand. That is kind of a slap in the face. Now, in terms of Peter, I took some of what he was saying kind of as well, actually, there was a little bit more to it where he's talking about a majority of the staff is coming over. Actually, let me play that for you guys. That way you can hear it from him.
For both modern and vintage. The same grading team is there. The same director of grading is still running the grading room. But a decent chunk of the SGC staff is shifting over to work on PSA, because part of what we also saw on the PSA side was, wow, we're drowning in all this demand. We need to accelerate our capacity.
Okay, that's the part I should have let that play out. But so when he was talking about some things in this video, and you can go watch Neo's video, the full thing to get all the details. But he was kind of talking about Peter taking a break, maybe doing a little vacationing. But it sounded like, or the way it was said anyway, it sounds like Peter is also going to be part of that chunk that he mentions of the SGC staff that's going to be moving over to PSA. Now, whatever Peter does, I want to say thank you to him. Thank you to the other guys, Brian, Andy, obviously, and Logan. Those are the main guys that I worked with throughout the years, and the rest of the staff, obviously they're behind the scenes and I didn't personally communicate with them or anything. But, thank you to SGC again, because it was awesome to see the growth. It was awesome to be able to help be a part of that growth. And it sucks. It sucks to hear somebody say, we want to make a U-turn. We don't want to grow anymore. We want to make a U-turn. But is it surprising? Not exactly, because it was kind of like the Death Star when they bought them. People talked about it. Why run two? Why, he even says it. Why spend the money to have two mega companies? So basically, it's like PSA is going to be the name brand, and SGC in terms is going to be the boutique. They're going to be the the sister brand, the not as important brand. And more changes like this is just, honestly, they don't have to close the doors to SGC. They are literally writing the script to make them irrelevant. And it sucks saying that, but to say that they want them back at the 2017, 18, 19 levels, yes, SGC was a company then, but let's not forget, there was many times that you would go to a card show with a tux in your hand and try to make a deal with a dealer, and they would look at you and straight up say, I don't buy SGC. I don't want SGC. You could go to dealer after dealer after dealer and look at their showcases, and there was no tuxes in the cases. That was, 2020, let alone 17, 18, 19, right? If they're wanting to scale it back to that, yeah, there's a good volume out there over the last few years, but as time passes, they become less relevant, right? Now, how long is that time? How long will that take? I don't know. But I think initially, just these statements, just these moves are going to put people on edge to where they're not going to want to buy SGC. I think it's going to have almost an immediate impact, because a dealer isn't, unless they're getting it at a hell of a discount, they're like, everybody's got to be questioning, what's the timeline? What's the timeline till the next change? What's the timeline till, they're back at that 4-person staff and doing hardly any cards a month? Because right now, the way that the script is working, it looks like they're becoming a Beckett. And that sucks to say. Like, Beckett was up here. They were a big dog. They were highly respected. People using them a ton. And now they're down here at the bottom. And it feels like it's going to be a similar thing. You have the number 2 sports card grading company, and you're saying, we want to turn them back to 2017, 18, 19. We want to take all of the staff because we need them over here because we're drowning over here. So we're going to take this staff on a growing company, a company that has grown, got a lot of support. We're going to take that and scrap it, and we're going to rewrite the program, and we're going to turn back the clock to 17, 18, 19. Oh, and by the way, the man that was behind all the videos, the man that had the excitement, the man that had the energy, the promises, the guts to say we're going to do a 5 to 10 day turnaround time. Oh, he's gone now too. What, honestly, and I'm speaking straight up with you guys, what is left to give you confidence in continuing to use SGC? What is left? That's a question that I'd like to see people answer. What is left? Maybe you like the look of the tux. Maybe that's what you have left. But if you know that the majority of all the staff that you've trusted and loved is moving, if you know the CEO, Peter, is gone, if you hear them say that they want to turn the company into a boutique, what makes you confident or secure in using SGC right now? Nothing. Like, I actually felt kind of guilty for not sending them cards since October of 2023. Because I was still doing bulk submissions and everything else. But I was clear with everybody when I was using CGC, it was cards that either SGC couldn't do, they were too thick, there was stuff that I had sent SGC before that they had sent back said they couldn't do. The pricing was cheaper, even with my bulk discount, my CGC pricing was cheaper, and it was all PC stuff. It wasn't stuff that I was worried about selling. But I still felt a little bit of guilt because I'm sitting here supporting SGC. I'm sitting here sending, all of the cards for other people, and I myself am not using them. I'm not standing here and using them, even though I'm talking about how, how they are. I've also been very vocal about when they would screw up, I would let people know. Like, I was always open and honest about everything. And so I'm going to continue that. To all the people that put faith over the last 5 years, put the trust in, I'm not taking anything away from the company of the last 5 years, but it really sucks to have to sit here and say, I would not send them a card. There's not a chance. I don't know how long until the cord is fully cut. And, that may never happen. But for the man that runs the different segments of the grading for collectors to come out and say, we want to make them a boutique company, so they're still there. They're an option for the people that want to use them, but we don't want to consider them a relevant grading company anymore. They're just a boutique. You know what I think of when I think of boutique grading company? I think of things like Arena Club. I think of things like HGA. And where are they at? They were great during the boom. Everybody loved HGA during the boom until the owner was, doing all his stuff. But people loved the little custom labels and everything. They were a popular company. They came onto the scene. But they were a boutique. Like, let's be real about it. They're not a relevant company anymore. They're really, if you want to classify a boutique, that would be it. You could send them cards to get the little custom labels. Or the one, I can't think of it, but the one that looked like a dang iPhone and had like the thick case and everything. Cool. If you wanted something that, that you could throw against a brick wall, great. But otherwise, they have no relevancy. That's a boutique. To hear the man say that and say 17, 18, and 19, knowing that I started using SGC in the beginning of 2020 and I knew where they were then, they were not that popular. But to say you want to go even further back than that, I wouldn't suggest them. And I apologize to everybody that over the last few years really became to love SGC. Because it sucks knowing that it's almost like Toys R Us, man. They closed, right? We all loved it. Toys R Us ain't going nowhere. We are all Toys R Us kids, and now they got shut down. They bring a little stores back here or there, but they're boutiques. They're boutiques. They're no longer the big Toys R Us. We don't hear kids today saying they want to grow up and be a Toys R Us kid. No, you don't hear that anymore, right? And it's kind of the same situation. Tuxedo time. It's not tuxedo time anymore. Tuxedo time ran out. The clock ran out. And that sucks. What do I really think the future holds? Unless there is some major shakeup with maybe a Fanatics move or something, PSA is really becoming a monster. And y'all know me. I have not used them since 2019. I have no intent of using them. But they are becoming a monster. Real quick, I'm going to add this on here towards the end because I do think it's important to talk about. And this is a high example here. But now on eBay, if you buy a raw card that is $250 or more, you will have an option to add grading through PSA to your purchase. Now, this one is $1,500, so it's got this express. I pulled one up earlier that was a $500 best offer card, and it had the $39.99 option. So there are cheaper options. It states a 20-day turnaround time once your card is authenticated. Pay no additional fees for a limited time. Now, this has to be incorrect because we're already in July. But anyway, this could be a game changer for people that like to flip cards, because now you could buy a card raw. It goes to authenticity guarantee. So some people are like, well, I don't want to grade a card without seeing it. Well, the authenticity guarantee is kind of giving that pre-screen because they have to check it and make sure its condition stated as what the seller stated it as. So that, gives you a little bit of security blanket there. And then it would get graded. So, like, if there was an issue or something that they spotted that the seller didn't mention, it should hypothetically get rejected from authenticity guarantee. If it's as stated, then you should have faith in what the seller stated for you, and then it'll go ahead and get graded. Now, I don't know how this is going to work with upcharges and all of that stuff, because like I said earlier, the card I seen was 500 or best offer. The $39.99 level is a max declared value of $500. So I don't know how that's working, because that little segment there says, no additional fees. But, tying that back in with all of this, they just did they started off their comic book grading. They're doing this repack certification thing. They have WADA, the video games. They have, obviously PSA. They have they have became the monster, and they're doing 1.5 million cards, and now they're taking staff from another company to expand the capacity levels. They got the office in Florida now. They got the Jersey. They got, I guess, something in Texas, I think, for autographs. They are heavily expanding, and their numbers should just continue to grow. You got Pokemon flying off the rails with, high numbers. You got sports cards still, being strong. The companies that need to be opening their eyes and taking advantage of this opportunity with the SGC draw, honestly, I put CGC first. They need to be the ones to try to take some of the demand, some of the audience that may get lost with the SGC changes, to come over there. That could help them out. But they got to get better at their turnaround times and all of that stuff, right? Or else they're just going to be competing with the same turnaround times as PSA's putting out, and then there's no advantage except for, I don't like PSA, I'm going to use CGC customers. If CGC could get a quicker turnaround time to where they are more appealing to collectors, more appealing to people to submit, they could potentially have a growth in sports like SGC had. It's going to take a little bit of time, but between them and Beckett, one of them needs to stand up and say, hey, we have an opportunity here. We need to take advantage of this. We need to put our foot down, get our head out of our ass, and start taking some of this demand. And, whether or not they do that, I don't know. But, my thoughts, honestly, it's sad. It's very, very sad. It is not surprising, but it is sad. I would not suggest using SGC right now. Maybe in the case of vintage, but otherwise, I just don't have the confidence. There's been too many things going in. Like I said, they're making a hard U-turn. I don't think that the plans are to keep them as a significant, relevant company. The man said the word, the key word, boutique. The man said the word, we want to scale them back. And it sucks to even say this. This channel was always positive SGC, and right now, this is the most negative I have ever been. And I have been pissed at them sometimes, but this is the most negative that I have ever been. I would not suggest, if it's for your PC, do as you wish. But otherwise, I would not want to feel confident paying to submit my cards to a boutique. There's other options out there. There's other cheaper options out there that do just as well. And today's a big day, and it's dropping right before the National. So anyway, that's all I got. I guess we'll see. I don't know if we'll ever even know if Pete goes to PSA, but yeah, the future of SGC has a massive question mark over it, and it honestly looks like I made the right choice of saying that I was no longer going to do bulk submissions. So I know there's other submitters out there that are continuing on, but Again, I've always been honest, and I don't have the confidence in the company anymore. There's too much going on. There's too many questions, and the answers were kind of given. What is the future of SGC hold? They are now a boutique. That's all I got for you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and until the next video, I'm out.